call the meeting to order. Welcome to the February 19th meeting of the Sayreville Board of Education. Public notice will be read at the start of the open public meeting. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Hill, roll call, please.
Mr. Balca?
Here.
Mrs. Bacco?
Here.
Mrs. Bloom?
Here.
Mr. Callahan?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
Here.
Mrs. Kenny?
Here.
Ms. Rubio?
Here.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Syak?
Here. Can I have a motion for executive session, please?
So moved.
By Mrs. Bloom. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Walsh. Read the resolution, please, Ms. Hill.
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Borough of Sayreville, Middlesex, State of New Jersey, as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of and action upon the hereinafter specified subject matters. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Personnel, including but not limited to agenda items, attorney-client privilege on school ethics, and negotiations for the Sayreville Education Association. It is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter shall be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists. This resolution shall take effect immediately. Mr. Balco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mrs. Kenny?
Yes.
Ms. Rubio?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Syak?
Yes. Thank you very much. The meeting is closed and will resume at 7:30. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the February 19th meeting of the Sayreville Board of Education. Thank you for coming. Take notice, this public meeting of the Sayreville Board of Ed was transmitted to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger in accordance with Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, further in accordance with NJSA 10:4-6-21. A copy was posted outside the Secretary's office and filed with the Clerk of the Borough of Sayreville. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Hill, roll call, please.
Mr. Balco?
Here.
Mrs. Bacco?
Here.
Mrs. Bloom?
Here.
Mr. Callahan?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
Here.
Mrs. Kenny?
Here.
Ms. Rubio?
Here.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Syak?
Here. Can you summarize executive session for us, please?
The board discussed personnel, including but not limited to agenda items, attorney-client privilege related to school ethics, and negotiations on the Sayreville Education Association.
Okay, thank you very much. Our student council representative extends his apologies. He will not be here this evening. We have no attorney's report, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Labby for introduction of some special guests and some phenomenal presentations. Dr. Labby.
Thank you, Mr. Syak, and I'd like to welcome everyone to a very special board meeting. It's always a special board meeting when we get to go ahead and celebrate and honor the very special people in this district, particularly the students that are sitting here, right here and now, which I'm so very proud of because it's a large turnout. As you know, our students in Sayreville are incredible, and we're going to celebrate this evening the performance of some of our students outside of the classroom, in the conference-like atmosphere, as well as on the bowling alley. But to begin things, I asked Mrs. Rubio to join me up front so that we can honor our future business leaders of America that made the regional and will be competing soon in Atlantic City for the national or for the state FBLA competition. Mrs. Rubio and Mr. Howard.
While we're at it, we should also point out Mr. Howard is our Teacher of the Year from the high school. So congratulations, Mr. Howard. I'm his opening act. So.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to thank everybody again for the opportunity to be here tonight to honor some of our amazing students. Future Business Leaders of America is an organization. Right now we have about 140 students competing in business events that range from computer science to accounting all the way to public speaking and things of that nature. Our regional events are usually test-based, and what we have not everybody's here tonight, only 2 were able to come tonight, but 16 of our students were able to place in the top 8 in their region. 4 students took first place and are crowned regional champions. So the 2 that I'm going to bring up this evening, we have 1 regional champ, Camille Giselle. And then our 4th place in intro to business communication was Neve Mystery.
This supposed to be 16.
Yes.
By the way, he's the best dressed guy here.
Jacket. Not quite.
And of course, we're only beginning. We have some other amazing students who won regionals as well in the DECA competitions, and they too will be going to Atlantic City, I believe, pretty soon as well to compete on the state level. We are so incredibly proud of them, and to assist me in honoring them, Mrs. Bloom.
I'm going to ask Ms. Ferrari to come up. She's also the advisor. DECA stands for Distributive Education Clubs of America. I'm trying to figure out what it is, and it's right there on the certificate. Our students have excelled in many different categories. I'm reading these and I'm very impressed. Human resource management, just to flip through, entrepreneurship, team decision-making, sports and entertainment marketing. How diverse do we get? Apparel and accessories marketing. So we have a variety of wonderful things that our young people are involved in, and I'm going to let Ms. Ferrari call them up, because she knows the names better than I do.
I first would like to call up Neha Bhatt, and she has received an award for human resource management. All right, the second person is Ismail Dar, and he received an award for entrepreneurship team decision-making. His partner this year was Sean Donna Maria, and they placed third in the entrepreneurship team decision. Our next student is Mohammed Ghani, and he received second place for Principles of Hospitality and Tourism. This evening, Alice Mako unfortunately is not here with us, but she did receive an award for second place in apparel and accessories marketing. Zach Panay, who is not here also, but he received an award for sports and entertainment marketing. Samantha Rubio, she had said she was coming, but I don't see her here. But she received an award for business law and ethics in team decision-making. Mansi Shukla was her partner, but they are Award for Business Law and Ethics. All right, and next we have Neha Shah, and she received an award for Principles of Finance. And up next is her sister, who's a senior this year. Her name is Priya Shah, and she received an award in apparel, accessories, and marketing. Matthew Wisnowski, he is not here. He received an award in sports and entertaining and marketing. Next up is Hussein Zaidi, and he received 2 awards, both for food marketing and services. He received a second place award and first place award. And that's it for this evening.
All right. And then we got to do another selfie. We did a selfie last time, so we can't selfie. Give it up again for our executive I'm going to be making a very important announcement after all this is done, and you're going to be the first to hear. So anyone
And I didn't steal your thunder.
Okay, and as I alluded to, in terms of athletic competition, we have some very, very special people that we also need to recognize and honor. And incredibly, both our boys and our girls bowling teams had magnificent years this year. So let's begin first with our girls team. And Mr. Esposito's going to help me out with that, and it's Mr. Zola here. Come on up, Mr. Zola. About our GMC White Division champs. Greatly appreciate it. Okay, the only thing I know about bowling is turkeys, because I'm considered one too.
Okay, coming off a season where we had 4 wins last year and we lost 2 of our better bowlers, there was not many expectations this year. Okay, and I could tell the first day of practice, we spoke about this, the girls looked at me like I was crazy. I had expectations, I had goals, they looked at me like I was nuts. Okay, I told them, bowl your best, work hard, we will get to where we want to be. And we did. 14-3 record this year, coming from 4 wins. We had a lot of individual accomplishments as well. We had 2 girls in the GMC finals, and we had 1 girl qualify in the state individual finals. To introduce my senior captain, who was awesome all year. Special girl, and I am going to miss her. I will never admit that. This is the first time I'm ever going to admit that. Raina Wright.
Good evening. My name is Raina Wright, and I'm a graduating senior of the 2018-19 girls bowling team. Samantha Samansky and myself are the captains of this wonderful team, alongside our awesome coach, Mr. James Hill.
but certainly not least, we have our New Jersey Group 3 section champions. And to assist me, I'm going to ask Mr. Walsh and Coach Slavic to join me up front.
I'd like to congratulate all the students who've been honored tonight, and as I was thinking what I was going to say about the bowling team, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, well, geez, everybody can bowl. But then it struck me that out of everybody that can bowl, only a small percentage can bowl at an adequate level. And out of that small percentage of people who can bowl at an adequate level, only a smaller percentage can bowl at a high level. And out of that percentage, even a smaller percentage is able to bowl at a championship level, at a Group 3 championship level. And that takes a lot of practice, focus, desire, and we're proud of the Sayreville Bomber bowling team. And I know that we had great leadership with Coach Slavic, who I got to work with years ago with track, and I know he's a hard worker and he instills great attributes in our athletes. So without further ado, I want to congratulate Coach Slavic and turn it over to him.
So, Raymond, you're a very hard act to follow. Luckily, I don't have to. Peter's going to come up in a minute. I just wanted to take a quick second to thank the Board of Ed, the administrators at the high school, the middle school, the athletic director for always being accommodating. It is tough trying to coordinate with the different schools and everything, trying to get practice time, trying to get buses, change, book, everything. So thank you, everybody, for your continued support. We really appreciate it. It helps us do what we have to do on a daily basis. So thank you. So without further ado, Peter Lawrence, one of our senior leaders, come on up. Good evening,
everyone. My name is Peter, and I am a senior on the bowling team. My fellow teammates over there are Joe Yanuzzi, Nolan Holmes, Omar Rodriguez, Xavier Leonard, Nicholas Santa Maria, David Ticky, unfortunately he's not here today, Brian Colella, Thomas Suchiki, and Jonathan Tabaco, who was our team captain for the 2018-2019 bowl. So our record this year was 6-5-1. We did have some accomplishments this year. We ended up coming in second place for the Edison J.P. Stevens tournament, and we also became Central Group 3 champions of the NJSIAA tournament. And trust me when I say both were very long days with limited food. So we are also happy with the way the bowling season ended. But our starters on our teams, our teammates on the sidelines, and our parents in the back cheering and being as loud as they possibly can. But nothing can compare to the girls' team.
Maybe the phone.
But nothing could compare to the girls' team. They were loud by our side always, and they fought hard too, and we couldn't thank them more enough for being our biggest supporters. Before I end, I would like to thank again the Board of Ed and and all of you guys again for supporting. Without you guys, we wouldn't be nowhere. So thank you so much. And even though we didn't place first for state, we know we definitely made the Bomber District proud. Thank you guys.
Tough ones, not jokes.
They turkey.
Earl Anthony, since Earl Anthony was there. You know, all sports I always have like, John Wooden said. I was waiting for you to pull one out. I'll tell you. Johnny the Jack.
So before Dr. Labby makes his announcement, I just want to offer my congratulations to FBLA, DECA, and the boys and girls bowling team. It's nights like tonight where when that parent of an 8th grader is wondering, do I send my son or daughter to Sayreville War Memorial High School? Tonight is a fine example as to why that decision should be yes. The accolades that our business program receives, and let me tell you, when you see these students present and make a sales pitch or pitch an idea, we've seen it here at a board meeting, it is absolutely phenomenal, and they can compete with the best in the business. Our bowling team was actually started many years ago with 3 or 4 students who came to the board and said, there's a lot of scholarships in bowling, will you just sponsor us? We don't even want a team, we just want to be sponsored and supported in order to pursue bowling. And as a result of those 3 or 4 committed students, we now have state championship bowling teams. The district here, the high school here, is committed to these students, and that commitment at the forefront of that commitment are the educators that you see standing behind these students and being recognized along with them. The advisors, the coaches, and the teachers and support staff that we have working for us, as well as our talented administrative team. So I want to congratulate all the students recognized tonight. This is only the beginning. There's a lot more to come. Dr. Labby, I'll turn it over to you.
And I've strategically moved away from the parents when I'm going to say this. We have an early dismissal tomorrow. Now you can light up Snapface, Twitch chat, whatever you need to light up, because no one else knows yet, and they won't know until 8 o'clock, so you guys can go light it up. But early dismissal.
And now we're going to begin our budget portion of our meeting, so you may also want to take advantage of an early dismissal. But you're also welcome to stay.
John, they moved regions tomorrow Thursday.
What's that?
They moved regions.
They moved regions?
Whole state.
Wow.
All 8 regions to
Yeah.
Thursday now.
That almost guarantees it'll be all right.
Yeah.
That's big, man, if the regions move them all. Yeah, well, I went bowling in, I think, 2 weeks ago with the kids, you know, so we had the bumpers on, but I still only bowled like once on with bumpers.
Triplets, actually. Second, third cousin. They look like. That's all I said. Yeah, we know how that works. Right? Sorry.
folks, our 30-second warning. We're going to move on with our meeting.
With the lights.
Dr. Levin, do you need to make that phone call, or are you all set?
I'm going to sneak away. I've had a chance to preview Dr. Aguilis's presentation. It's quite lengthy. I'll have time during that.
So, actually, do we want to put him up first then, and so you can...
Well, that would be a great idea.
There we go. And Dr. Aguilis, I'd like to point out, you do not need to wait to conclude your presentation until Dr. Labby gets back.
Okay, no, then,
Let in a Cuban by a microphone is a dangerous proposition. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking out time to look at our presentation. I do promise, although it's lengthy in slides, it will not be lengthy in time. In 2017-18 in Human Resources, we've done a number of things. We worked on getting a more accurate list of substitutes to our departments. This is something that the board had requested of us. This is something that the principals have requested of us, and it's something that we continue to work on. It is by no means finished, but we are much better prepared as far as the number of substitutes that are still on the list that is accurate. We've taken off members who have gone from our substitutes to our tenured positions. We've removed the people who have not shown up to any more positions, so that continues to be a work of focus, but we continue to improve upon that. We're focused on hiring more certificated substitutes for the buildings. This was an important change that we made, although we do appreciate our certified subs. Those with teaching certificates allow us, especially in the middle school and the high school, to continue the work that the teacher leaves them because they understand the work that's involved there. They have more experience in the classroom, so we're trying very hard to get those teachers into our classrooms more often, and that seems to be working out as well. We're focused on diversifying certificated staff throughout the district, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in a minute. We've attended multiple job fairs throughout the state in order to diversify staff throughout the district. We attended multiple workshops, conferences that deal with HR issues such as affirmative action, hiring, dismissal of employees, FERPA, and FMLA. We began collecting data on employee attendance to better plan for substitutes throughout the year using the 2017-18 school year as the benchmark, and we are trying to determine whether or not there are any attendance trends that we can decipher or locate so that we can better prepare for the upcoming years. This year, we created a job fair that will be held in Sayreville. It was a goal that we had set for ourselves, and it's one that we will meet on April 13th of this year. The job fair will occur at the Samsel Upper Elementary School from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The job fair is going to be looking at not only certificated staff, but non-certificated staff as well. That includes bus aides, bus aid substitutes in general, substitute custodians, etc. We were looking at whether or not to expand Project Before, and I'm happy to say that we were able to expand it at one more class. So our goal is met there. We were able to hire a qualified P3 teacher for that program. As far as armed police officers for all buildings, again, that goal has been met. All buildings have at least one armed police officer. The police officer has not, having a police officer in the building has not created any disruption for the day. The officer walks throughout the building, and they're all highly visible to students, staff, and parents. This allows for our campus monitors to stay primarily in the front lobby or the vestibules to greet and vet visitors at the door. We were also looking for
curriculum content leaders for the middle school and high school. Unfortunately, that goal has not yet been met, but we're continuing to work on this through other means, and I'll discuss that in a minute. What is a bomber? I think that the presentations that you saw prior to mine emphasizes what bombers are, but much like when we ask what a bomber is, the answer that I get more often than not is, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. And I think that today we saw that with our students. They're a diverse group, but one of the things that you saw was them supporting each other, talking proudly about the other's accomplishments. These are all things that we like and we'd like to continue to grow, and I think that a large part of that has to do with the students themselves, the parents, and the staff members as well as administration. We've partially met the What is a Bomber goal. We're working with the Culture and Climate Committee, and we began discussing what it means to be a bomber. We've developed a survey. The survey, we were actually going to talk about it in January, and unfortunately we had to cancel that meeting. So our upcoming meeting now in February, we'll discuss the survey, and once it's finalized, it'll go out to staff, parents, and high school students. The reason that this is important is not only that it establishes the culture and climate that currently exists, but it also allows us to focus on the culture and climate of in the future. And what I mean by that is it allows us to discuss hiring with potential candidates, what it means to be a bomber. It allows us to vet candidates, whether or not they fit into that bomber mold and bomber spirit. So one of the things that we've worked upon is Mr. Viris, who's the SEA president. He's going to be joining me on at least 2 job fairs. I thought it was important. He and I had similar goals on the type of teachers we'd like to see coming into the district. On a conversation that we had last year, we decided that we would go jointly to a few job fairs. And I think it's important for future teachers who are going to work in district, who are possibly going to be SEA members, to hear from the SEA president as to what it means to work here and why they should join us as bombers. It also allows us to look at hiring in a different venue. We talked about diversity. One of the things that we're having difficulty in, not only in Sayreville but in New Jersey in particular, is the difficulty in finding diverse applicants. Last year, 56% of the 1.4 million students were non-white, while only 16% of the 116,000 public school teachers were Black, Hispanic, Asian, or of some other race other than white. The NJA DOE has established a goal that by 2025, novice teachers should reflect the diversity of the public school students, and we're working toward achieving that goal with them. Currently, 22% of all new and novice teachers in New Jersey are non-white. One of the reasons the NJ DOE is looking to increase diversity is through support of schools with teacher academies. Through leadership of Dr. Shediak and the administration at the high school, we're ahead of the curve. And one of the things that we're noticing is that the Department of Education is supporting schools who have teacher academies. We're established with a teacher academy, and we are looking to partner in the future. We're looking to partner with universities so that they hopefully will take our students from the teacher academies, know that they've been working toward a career as a teacher, and hopefully start taking them, accepting them as freshmen into the universities. The best way to get bomber teachers is to grow your own, and I think that we've started that with the teacher academies, and I'm hoping that within the next few years we'll start seeing recent graduates from Sayreville coming back to support the town and the high schools and the schools that have made them the students and the people that they are. We're starting to see a little bit of that. This year we've hired at least 4 or 5 former students who are now on tenure track positions in our district. Our goals for next year is to establish a better division of labor at the HR department in order to improve productivity and speed the hiring process, especially as it relates to hiring substitutes. One person is now dedicated solely to the process of processing substitute paperwork. which allows the confidential secretary to deal with all tenured track positions and certificated track paperwork. This allows for more accountability, faster turnaround in paperwork, and faster completion of staff folders and data input. Working with the technology department, we've also started to utilize, or at least working towards utilizing, current HR software in order to process applications even faster. We're currently developing a substitute pipeline, which will allow us to know where our substitutes are as far as the application process. Once we know that that one works and is successful, future ones will include a job fair pipeline so we can determine which job fairs have been successful so that we can put our resources into those job fairs that allow us to get the most candidates. A certificated staff pipeline, a non-certificated staff pipeline, a maintenance and custodial pipeline. The reason these pipelines will be created through Frontline is that now the administrators for each of those areas will be able to see the paperwork faster, see the candidates faster, and if there's an issue with getting a candidate on board, we can now call them and get them on board as quickly as possible. As you've noticed, we've been working on reports and continue to work on developing reports that utilizes our data as best possible. Some of the areas that we're collecting data on as far as HR is concerned is attendance, overall attendance of our staff as well as our teachers, observations, are we getting them done in time and in a timely manner, and diversity. Again, we're able to see we will be able to see what our population of teachers looks like, what our population of workers looks like in general, to see where we need to focus our hiring practices. Length of time a job posting takes to fill. One of the reasons this is so important is that it allows us to see, for example, one of the areas we've had difficulty filling is media specialist. We had media specialists posted for about a month or so. We couldn't get any applicants. This allowed us to work, Dr. Shediak, Mrs. Obrick, myself, work toward having a creative solution. One of the solutions we found was that we had teachers already in district that hadn't applied for the position because they didn't have the certificate, but now are working toward the certificate and taking over our media specialist position. So allowing us to know how long a position remains open allows us to work on solutions. Another area is our nurses. We know that nursing is becoming an issue, and we've been hiring nurses over the last 2 years, and we expect to be hiring nurses over the next few years as well. In the interim, finding substitute nurses is a difficulty that we face, and we've partnered with Delta T, which is an outside agency that allows us to get substitutes that are qualified into the building when it comes to our nurses. We can't do anything without human capital. So for the upcoming year, this is the human capital needs according to the district, the high school, the middle school, and project before. At the high school, we're looking for a physical education teacher, a science teacher, and a school counselor. At the middle school, we're looking for a physical education teacher and an ASI teacher. Oops. For project before, as I said, we've expanded the position. I believe there's now about 13 classrooms. Mr. Nasser, correct me if I'm wrong. There's about 13 classrooms right now. The number is very large. It's approaching the size of our smallest elementary, and a director of preschool is needed. As far as the district is concerned, full-time campus security monitors during the school day and 2 part-time campus security monitors for the evening, cafeteria aides for the high school and the middle school, an accountant, a buildings and grounds night supervisor. As you'll see when Mr. Kohlmansberger comes up, there are a number of projects that we're undertaking as a district. If you've driven past Arlith, you've seen the changes in the windows, at least up front. And there needs to be somebody there to supervise that work is being done and being done in a timely manner. And the building and grounds night supervisor would help in that area. Technology engineer, a technology help desk, which would have a multiple purpose. It would be a help desk. It would support staff and for the technology director, as well as be support staff for the security specialist. Currently, neither position has a direct office support staff. In 2017, we worked with the SCIP committees and principals throughout the district to focus on individual professional development needs for the building. We established and developed professional development drop-ins at all buildings. This year, and the links that, I know you can't see them, but you have them on your paperwork. The links that are listed there are links that I put for the public if they wanted to get more information on responsive classroom and on Playworks. But in 2018 and 19, professional development, we worked with the administrators to orchestrate 4 days of professional development over the summer for elementary staff in regards to responsive classroom training. We worked with elementary administrators to provide training for SEL programs for recess, Playworks, which is currently in all our elementary schools. As far as drop-ins, this year we've so far had 17 drop-ins, which equates to 128 faculty or staff members receiving small group instruction or an individualized professional development. So what else have we done? We've worked with special services to coordinate ST Math training and Project Before teachers. Our Project Before students will now, by the end of next week, be able to work on Project Before, on ST Math individually. We're working with building administration and CPI to create cohesive reference binders and crisis plans. What that means is it'll ensure that we're in line with the New Jersey Department of Education and CPI regulation changes. Staff for each building will have access to these, as well as Board of Ed policies, CPI training documents, and individual building crisis plans, and list of trained staff. We've organized McKinney-Vento training for secretaries. Basically, it focuses on homeless students' registrations in the district. We organize yearly training, restraint training for all staff, paras, teachers, and administrators. That's become it's now a yearly requirement. And working with a request from proud parents, we are working on developing seizure training for staff. Our new Teacher Institute. With our new Teacher Institute, we're working to revise and improve programs for the next over the next 2 years in order to better target the needs being met for teachers. What that means is we're consulting with districts to compare new teacher training orientations, discussing possibilities of extending summer orientation, and of providing more content-based training for teachers new to the district. We've added Year 3 workshops this year. Year 3 workshops, similar to Ed Camp during the year. Year 3 is given opportunity to share practices, techniques that have worked well for them to discuss with the rest of the cohort. We're currently providing support for individualized support for struggling teachers. This goes for both tenured and non-tenured individuals who just need a little extra help, and we're providing that through professional development. Currently, out of district income for Sayreville University is $1,875. That means that we've generated $1,000 more than last year's total. We've been accepted as part of the New Jersey Teacher Leaders Network, Cohort 3. This is a program through the state. And what that means is, just a quick timeline. You have the timeline in front of you. In 2016, Sayreville Achievement Coaches were invited to Trenton to participate. In 2017, Sayreville Leadership Academy opened for aspiring administrators, and that's been doing very well, and we discussed opening up the same for teachers who wanted to be teacher leaders but not necessarily administrators. In December of 2018, we were applied and invited to participate in the process with the New Jersey Department of Ed Teacher Leadership Network, which we were accepted to. So what does that mean for our teachers? As we discussed before, we were looking for CCLs. This will give us an opportunity not necessarily to create CCLs, but create teacher leaders in our district. And some of the goals that we've developed for teacher leaders are established there. I'm not going to read through them, but they're there for yourself as well as for the community at large if they would like to read them. We established the TRC, established and continue to expand the TRC, that's the Teacher Resource Center. This is a place, we have maker spaces for students. Well, this is the adult maker space, and this credit to the development of this room and how it's utilized goes to Nina Obrick. She really did a phenomenal job setting this up. I don't know if you were able to see it, but I'll just give you a brief look at it. Now, one of the things that I think is phenomenal is all that furniture that you saw in there, all those bookcases, all that material was donated. So it didn't cost the district anything. Mrs. Obrick has worked diligently with Princeton University. Anything that they want to cast off, she goes through their list. She says, "Ooh, we need one of these, we need one of those." So that room was all designed with materials and furniture that Mrs. Obrick was able to get donated from Princeton University at no cost to the district. We continue to expand and develop offerings in PD through Sayreville University. This is something, again, that Mrs. Obrick and Mrs. DeSantis are very proud of, and we're proud of. They started this tradition now of when a PD is completed, they take what they call the PD selfie. Now, you may have noticed that there were some professional development opportunities that showed up more than once. Those are our more popular ones, or they're district initiatives where we can't fit everybody who wants to come in, either because the groups are too large or... Oops. He'll turn it off. Thank you. Apologize for that. So there are professional developments that either are too large as far as the number of people who need to attend, or we just can't have that many people out of a building for that long a period. So it's something that we'll repeat a number of times throughout the year to make certain that our teachers are able to fit the professional development in through Sayreville University. The last thing that isn't on your slide, and it's something that Mrs. Obrick made certain that I put up here, is Parent University. Parent University continues to grow, although it's growing slowly. We're hoping that getting the word out through the SPAC committees, the parent committees, the PTOs, et cetera, will start attending these really excellent professional development geared toward parents. We've had a number of them, and Mrs. Obrick can certainly speak to them after the meeting. But we've had things as far as vaping, as far as opioid addiction. We've had grading policies and a number of other events geared towards making certain that parents understand what we're doing as a district and moving forward. At this time, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for Dr. Aguiles? Yes.
So you were speaking about the teaching academy that we have here. How many students participate in that right now? Do we know?
The Teacher Academy, I don't have the number. Mrs. Shediak may know.
Right now, we have, I think it's about 20, it's in the low 20s of students enrolled in the tomorrow's teachers course.
Okay. Do we know the demographics? Because we were talking about diversity. Do we have any idea?
Not offhand, but we can get that for you.
Okay.
Certainly.
I can tell you, just having been a principal when the program first started, we did see a diverse group of students coming on board. Mr. Nuremberger this year had the opportunity of hiring one of our former students, and it was funny because she showed up for the interview and she said, "I remember you as my principal." And she's working out very well as one of our novice teachers. That's just one of the success stories. Eisenhower, just because I was principal there, Eisenhower currently has two teachers that are on tenure track that came out of, that were educated in Sayreville and came back to be teachers in our district. So we're promoting that more and more often. This year we've gotten at least, I'm going to say 6, it might be more, students who are still currently working towards their degrees as teachers who are now subbing in district and getting a feel for which grade level they'd like to be. So we're helping them out as often as possible.
Terrific. That's great. Thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Aguiles?
I have a question.
Yes, Mrs. Backup.
On the human capital needs slide, the 2019-2020, all of this list is was entered into the budget, all this,
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
to the first draft of the budget? So this is all the personnel that was put in?
Dr. Labby might know better, but it was introduced at least through my first round.
So I think the question is, are they still in the draft that the board has? Because you had inputted them.
Yes.
Right, this is what you
There,
proposed.
Correct.
I believe that the only thing that might be absent from that is the school counselor at the high school and the two physical education teachers, one at the middle school, one at the high school, as well as the science teacher at the high school.
All right, so they didn't make the first draft?
Well, they didn't make the first draft, but after I became interim principal, I learned of those needs, and for some reason or another, they weren't communicated to Dr. Aguiles's office. But as soon as I met with our leadership team and I learned of them, I spoke with Aaron and we added them to the list of personnel needs. Now, they go down as a cut right now because we don't have the money to support them yet, but they are on that list now of budgetary needs that have been cut. Once again, that's the PE teacher at the middle school, PE teacher at the high school, science teacher at the high school, and the school counselor at the high school.
Maybe it'd be easier if you just told me what on this list is still in the budget? Would that be easier?
In terms of the new personnel, none of it.
Nothing on this list is in the budget?
Nothing-
Oh, okay,
none of the new
everything on this
personnel.
list was cut.
No, everything was cut.
Oh.
We did not include any new personnel in the budget. We only kept existing personnel.
Okay, so this covers all
Correct.
disciplines? So-
But the budget that, what I was trying to explain before, the budget that you have did not include those other positions, which are now included but as cuts for now.
Okay, so all of these are considered cuts?
Correct. Yep.
All right, no, I thought the initial question was what didn't make the first draft? Right, that's what I thought you were originally saying, which didn't make the first budget, like was cut before we ever saw it. There were cuts before we got it, and
Yeah.
then there were cuts after we got the budget.
Correct.
Correct.
Yep, and those four were added after you got your original
Okay.
budgets.
All right, so all of these have been cut since we got our budget?
Yes.
Yes.
And of course, we're anxiously awaiting the, the state, our budget address, which is coming up on March 5th, I believe.
Yes. Okay, so this is a comprehensive list that includes whatever the principals wanted and,
Yeah, well,
Yes.
I would say that, their needs as well. But again, we cut $11 million, so what we did was we protected existing staff. But for instance, I'll, give an example. We have a class at the middle school with 45 children in a PE class. We have close to that number at the high school as well. So our high school PE classes, because think about it, our enrollment has been going up each year at only two schools, the high school and the middle school. There's over 18, you guys get the enrollment reports that I send you every month. There's over 1,800 children in the high school. That puts a great burden on our PE classes, which obviously kids need to take PE throughout the year. Same in the middle school as well. So we're looking at that as being high on our priority list. We can't have classrooms with 45 children in them, even if they are physical education classes. Also, our science classes are particularly voluminous, and we need to provide labs to these children. And you can't have a certain number of kids in a classroom and have a lab at the same time because there's simply not enough lab tables and lab equipment. So that's the other reason for the need for the science teacher. And of course, when you talk about enrollment going up, you talk about per student counselor. And that's the other reason why there is a need for an additional school counselor here at the high school.
do you know what our current ratio is for student to counselor?
I do not know, but obviously it's gone up significantly because the population has gone up. However, I would have to say that, again, our PE teachers are probably the greatest concern that I have right now, particularly because we have some classrooms with that many children in them.
Are PE teachers still teaching 5 classes or teaching 6 classes?
Most of our PE teachers, I would say half of them teach 6, half of them teach 5, but they do duties.
Other questions for Dr. Aguilas?
This is more of a funding question. The director of preschool, would that be funded 100% from the general fund, or would it come out of the enterprise fund for the preschool?
It probably could be a combination of both. I mean, since there is a significant number of revenue coming in from that, yeah.
So you don't think you could fund it if you use some of the money from the preschool?
We could probably use some from the enterprise account and some from, our preschool monies, from the general fund. We're also hoping, again, that we're invited to apply for preschool expansion aid. That would greatly assist us. But as been noted previously by, Mr. Nasser, that preschool now is well over 300 kids. It's an elementary school, in essence. And right now, the person that is, operating it and leading it is also the supervisor of special education. So she's doing that and running a school, which it's nearly impossible. She has to, do observations outside of her building. She has to do faculty department meetings outside of her building. She deserves to be a principal of a school, because that's what she is right now. She's a principal of a school.
And the cafeteria aides that were requested for the high school and the middle school, would that be additional personnel to the teachers that are in there?
Correct.
Yes.
It wouldn't be replacing?
And that would
No.
free us up to do a lot of the things that we talked about previously when we did the school budgets. Having an opportunity room. By the way, we did implement our opportunity room at the high school. It hasn't caught on as quickly as we would have hoped, but we do have several students per lunch period taking advantage of it. But the middle school, It has been very successful at the middle school. However, when you do that, you pull someone out of that lunchroom. Particularly at the high school, it's necessary because of the fact that our kids are in lunch for a good 45 minutes. And I think that I spoke about this at our last Board of Education meeting. You know, after the first, 25 to 30 minutes, the kids actually become a little bit bored in those lunchrooms. So you need as many staff as you can in there just to make sure that everybody is not getting restless. So the additional cafeteria aides will allow us to have a teacher go into the opportunity room, allow us to do what was called lunch detention during that time period, and may even allow us to do some other types of things, clubs and so forth, during that last 25 minutes or 20 minutes of lunch.
Any other questions for Dr. Aguilas? Dr. Aguilas, I like the strategy on the climate and culture in particular with regard to the defining of a bomber. I think as you talk to people, you're going to find it's kind of being defined all around us in pieces. You've got the football team, tougher for longer, for as long as it takes. I think the grit component is certainly part of the culture. Dr. Labby hit it at one of our earlier meetings where he talked about a bomber being someone who takes advantage of the full educational program that we offer. I would encourage both, Dr. Labby and yourself to think about, as we get all this data back from the surveys, how do we involve the board in this process as well, much like we did the strategic plan? Because what I don't want to do, I always tell board members when I train them that there's really 4 things that the board should have a major role in: mission of the district, vision of the district, culture of the district, superintendent of the district. Other than that, the rest of the stuff, a lot of times starts falling more heavily upon the administration and the professional educators. So I would just encourage you to think about, how do you involve the board once we get that data together with the culture and climate team to collaborate to come up with that culture, so that it's not something that is handed to the board, nor is it something that the board promulgates downward either, because I think it's got to be collaborative.
We have a very good culture and climate group, and I think we have a meeting coming up in a week or so, and I'll definitely bring it up as to how we involve the board once we get the data. One of the things that was interesting when we've spoken about it is every time we speak about a bomber, teacher, parent, didn't matter, on the committee, the first thing that comes up is not the highlights like we saw today, it's the adversity. Every time there's been some adverse impact, Sandy comes to mind, how much the community comes together and shows bomber spirit. So when we talked about what a bomber is, they said that's when bombers really shine, is in adversity. So it's something that definitely I take with me when I go to job fairs. It's something that we discuss when we're hiring candidates across the board, whether it's somebody in the maintenance department or a teacher, is because maintenance custodians, they care about the buildings as much as, or should care about the buildings as much as the administrators, teachers, and the students. And we have that. We have lead custodians who take a lot of pride in their buildings, and I think that's important. So when we talk to even custodians about what it means to them, what their job means to them, it comes up.
Great. And the other thing I would just add is on the Sayreville University, let's keep focusing on growing that. I mean, we doubled the revenue from $875 to $1,875. That's great. I think there's a lot of runway there. I don't know if there is a North Brunswick University or an East Brunswick University, but I see that.
I think you know the answer to that question.
I'm guessing the answer is there is not.
Thank you.
So, again, I think there's an opportunity for us to offer a program and a service here that other districts would want, and how do we involve our staff? And look, maybe it's even, I don't know if contractually we can do it, but maybe it's even using some of our own staff's professional development days to teach a course for teachers across, other school districts. Because when you teach, you still learn.
I won't take any credit for Sayreville University. That is really Mrs. Obrick, the amount of time that she spends on the phone with other districts, bringing other districts into district. is phenomenal, and she deserves a lot of credit. She just doesn't like to stand up here, but she deserves a lot of credit because she's grown the program. It was a good program under Shannon Johnson, and Mrs. Obrick has grown it and continues to grow it, and I think that we're going to do that. As far as staff members, we have staff members. If you saw Mr. Nornberger, one of our administrators, he presented, but we do have staff members that come and teach, and they do get paid a nominal amount, but they do get paid for developing the professional development and implementing it. So we get our best teachers for the PD from the teachers in district.
Great, excellent.
And if I could add to that too, I mean, in terms of Sayreville University, the creativity that is being demonstrated on an annual basis with regard to how we can, reach out and connect with more and more of our own teachers. And the drop-in PD was just an incredible idea that has been so successful this year with regard to our teachers in their prep periods, during their lunches, and getting a chance to get some PD in during those time periods. It's just phenomenal.
It's basically, our drop-ins are the opportunity periods for teachers that Dr. Labby is trying to start for our students in the middle school and the high school. And by doing that, by working with our teachers this closely, we get the opportunity to work with them in the classroom with their students sometimes, as well as just speaking to us outside of the classroom for 20, 30 minutes.
Okay. With regard to the parent university, or the,
Yes.
I too thought there'd be more participation. I think we have some excellent topics, and you guys do a great job. Have we thought about, instead of making it so broad, bringing it down to, like, say, K through 3, and bringing it to their level and having different types of, topics that would be more geared towards their children?
There are some, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but there are some topics that are specific to elementary, there are some topics that are specific to middle school and high school, and then there are topics that lend themselves across the board. And again, Mrs. Obrick does a very good job of bringing presenters in that deal and focus specifically with those areas. I keep telling Mrs. Obrick that if she feeds them, they'll come, so maybe if we start feeding parents, they'll show up. But I do think that we have a lot of involved parents. Even the parents who show up are very disappointed and very upset that they're not surrounded by more parents. So our claim to them all the time is, well, you've seen what it's like, bring 2 or 3 friends with you next time. And we hope to grow it and continue to grow it. Sayreville University didn't become what it is overnight. We don't expect Parent University to become the same way, but Mrs. Obrick puts in the dedication to Parent University that she does to Sayreville University. So I have no doubt that it'll grow to where we want it to be.
And keep in mind too that we also post the handouts as well as the video of the presentation. So I'd be really interested to know how many parents actually, view some of those videos. They don't have a chance to get to the actual workshop. And I think that contributes in many ways to the fact that some of our parents may not come out because they know it is being videotaped. They know they can still access the handouts, via online, obviously a little bit later, but that is still something they can do. So I do think that while we may not have a lot of parents attending those meetings, I still think they're very successful because I think a lot of our parents do go ahead and view the meetings and do take a look at the handouts that were provided during them.
Any other questions for Dr. Aguiles? All right, great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I was just going to call Jimmy, but I'm going to wait till he's done yawning. And to present our buildings and grounds, as well as capital project budget presentation, Mr. Kopenberger, our Director of Facilities.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you guys for letting me present this to you. Most of my projects are usually like, so they don't have a lot of...
We'd like to try to avoid that if at all possible.
Right. I'm going to start out with what we accomplished in 18-19. First was the football field, which I believe came out pretty nice. Everybody seems to enjoy it. We got all the little... We had some little things with markings, and we made them all right, and came out very nice, and I hope everybody likes it. One of the other things we accomplished was we finished the suppression system for the server room. This way we don't have water coming down onto our electronics, That's not really good with our computer parts. So we finally finished the other phase of that. We're planning on starting the track hopefully right after graduation. That's a big improvement that we're going to need because our track is in desperate need, falling apart. For the UES, if anybody's ever gone there, at the end of the day, to try to pick up their kids, it's a mess. So we're coming up with a plan to, down by the lower playground area, we're going to make it into a big bus parking lot. So hopefully everything will go through. We'll get all that done. That's part of this year's money. That's why it's this year's accomplishment. We're hoping we'll get it done and put out by the
After the end of the school year.
yeah. Arlett School, if anybody's driven by, first off, would like to thank the neighbors. We had a few complaints during our project at the thing because we were working the first couple days. We went kind of late into the morning, and the neighbors dealt with it. A couple complaints, but they look beautiful. They're going well. If you have a chance, I'd really like you to go to the school and check out how quiet the rooms really are. It's not just about the appearance of it. The education that the kids are getting now is unbelievable because you don't even hear the cars, the trucks going down Washington Road anymore. So that it was such a big improvement, and I would like to continue that with all of our schools, getting better windows. And plus the heating is now the rooms are comfortable. Even in the summer, the back end that was done, the teachers said that they were even cooler than normal from years past. So that's a big improvement. Wilson School bathrooms, we finished them all. We also did the 2 faculty rooms. I'd like to thank the maintenance staff for doing that. They worked very, very hard this summer. They got it done ahead of time, and they look very nice. I guess this is probably the best thing we're going to do this year is our district security vestibules. It's something that we really need to do to protect the students, the staff, and everyone there. We're going to do the SUES, we're going to do the middle school, and the high school. They should start, I believe, right after graduation. That's the projected date. And then finally, thank you. I got my front end loader that Rick always mentioned. It's going to help us up tomorrow with the snow. And we got the spreaders, which helps us clear the lots with all the snow that we're getting. And for 2019 now, I'm going to move on to, we're going to try to finish the clusters in Truman School. We got C7. We're going to convert that one big room into 2 rooms so we have a better learning experience for the kids because currently we just have a bunch of filing cabinets going down the middle of the classroom and it's not real good because you can hear other classrooms. The middle school, we're going to finally try to do the boys and girls locker rooms. We're going to upgrade them, make them look nicer. And also at the middle school, we want to do the chairlift. We spent so much money repairing the chairlift, and 90% of the times, it's down. And we got to wait for a company to fix it. So we really need a new chairlift there, and that's to get into the D wing. And then also at the middle school, we want to replace the cafeteria floor. It's ruined. Unfortunately, it was supposed to be a no-strip floor, but somebody stripped it years past, and it's falling apart, cracking, so we really need to replace that. Just not cosmetic, but for safety also. And we're going to keep going on with our security to do all the elementaries, to get all the vestibules built. And then finally, what I want to do is take the maintenance staff and get our boiler rooms in shape. Currently, our boiler rooms are being used as storage. We got to get away from being our boiler rooms as storage. It's not safe. We want to clean them all up, paint them, make them look nice. It'll help us with inspections throughout the years, and it'll keep it and be a safer and more efficient boiler room. Other than that, that's all we got going on. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Questions for Mr. Kolmensberger?
Just so you know, you're absolutely right. I passed Arleth the other night. It's like a different school. It's like a brand-new school. It's beautiful. Really, what a difference. So great job, really.
Thanks.
Other questions for Mr. Kolmensberger?
You skipped over the baseball field, Jimmy. Are we going to do that?
Yes, we are. I'm sorry, I did miss that. We are doing the baseball field. We're going to do the grading, so it's done right. We're also going to, instead of having the water, if anybody's ever drove behind the school here, you'll see all the water in the parking lot. They're actually going to put the drainage system into the actual draining system, so we won't have a runoff like we did before. But that's another thing that's, as you can see, there's a lot of projects that will be going over the summer.
And that'll be ready for the spring of 2020?
Yes.
All right. Because that's one we really can't miss on either. I mean, we've committed to those kids and those parents for a while.
Unfortunately, they're not going to be able to play this year.
Right. That we knew going in, but we definitely don't want to miss 2020. I know I'd said to Ms. Hill that we absolutely cannot miss on payroll when we did the conversion, and she delivered in a stellar fashion, so I'm very appreciative of that. I didn't have to manually sign any paychecks.
None of that.
Other questions for Mr. Coleman'sberger? What's the one project on here that you didn't get that you really, really feel you need?
That's not on here?
That's not on here that we're not doing? What's the one that we really need to
Eisenhower
do?
Library floor.
Eisenhower Library floor.
Yes.
Okay.
The rug replacement. To get rid of the rug and put in a tile floor, that's, and then the other one would be resurfacing the middle school gym.
Okay, and there's no VAT under the rug?
The rug is currently the 9x9 tiles, which would be asbestos. So it would be an abatement project.
You'll notice I didn't want to say that word. So I said VAT.
So you let me say it.
It's going to be expensive
Okay,
because of the abatement.
gotcha.
Now, maybe I'm ignorant, okay? Can you
Oh, I have one
go over
more.
it, Jimmy?
I have one more.
But can you go over it, or do you have to pull up the rug?
We have to pull up the rug and the tile underneath, plus the mastic underneath the tile.
You have to do that.
You have to by
Okay.
law. And of course, I would love to replace the windows at Eisenhower, but I think that came in as 1.2 million.
How much?
I think it was 1.3 million just for Eisenhower, because it is a bigger school. We've talked about Truman as well, which would be our next phase, and I want to say they estimate that about 700,000.
Okay. But the library is your number one additional project?
Knowing that I probably wouldn't get $1.2 million, yeah, that would be. But if I could get to $2.2 million from you guys, let's go with the windows.
Listen, I know asbestos, I know abatement is expensive, now I'm saying it. I didn't realize it was that expensive for that size room.
For that little room, I think it came in at $34,000.
Oh,
That's not too bad.
well, hang on, you
Just
said
for the
1.
abatement.
I'm sorry, you
Just
said
for
1.2
the abatement, the total
million.
project.
No, the windows.
That was
The
windows.
windows is
Oh.
1.2 million.
Okay, thank you, I didn't, okay, I'm
The total project that's $60,000.
Yeah.
okay.
The abatement alone is like 30-some.
All right, but about 60,000, and that's still your number one,
If, it's just a trip hazard with the old rug.
right?
But believe me, I would love to get everything. But
Unfortunately, rugs were in at one point in time, and now they're not. They're ugly, they're dirty, we don't want them anymore. But,
Ever since we had a mold bloom at Truman, we've attempted to be a rug-free school zone.
yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Good job, Jim.
Was that Justine abatement?
Buildings and grounds, is that a separate pitch, or that was all included?
That was all the same.
Fantastic. All right, then we're going to move on to our district highlights. Mr. Esposito.
Okay, I will be quick. Once again, I'd like to congratulate our FBLA students and our bowling teams, both boys and girls. And just one thing with our high school students. So we'd like to commend and congratulate two of our amazing art students, Andrew LaMonica and Tisha Madhawk. They both received recognition from the annual Scholastic Arts Awards. Andrew, received a Gold Key Award for his jewelry submission, and Tisha received an honorable mention for her work paper in the drawing category. We'd also like to congratulate and commend Sayreville High School senior Ashley Bonzi for scoring 16 out of 17 on the most recent National Word Right Challenge. She placed among the 43 highest scoring 12th graders in the nation out of 20,267 12th grade students. And lastly, freshman Orabena Amuha, Joshua Gorniak, Kinsa Shah scored 8 out of 10, placing in the top 134 of ninth graders out of 14,819 participants. And just so you know, WordWrite is a national reading competition for students in 9th through 10th through 12th grade that requires analytical reading of many kinds of prose and poetry. It emphasizes perceptive interpretation, sensitivity to language, and an appreciation of style. More than 64,000 students from some of the best public and private schools in the 48 states participated this year. That's all we got.
Okay, thank you, and congratulations to all those mentioned. Dr. Labby?
And if you don't mind, I can add one more thing with regard to the high school. I will put it in talk soup, but we're so happy to announce that we had 10 students, 8 juniors and 8 seniors and 2 juniors qualify for the Seal of Biliteracy. And that will be prominently placed on their diplomas. 4 of the seniors received it in Spanish, 4 of them received it in Polish, and I believe with the juniors, both were in Spanish?
Yes.
So we're incredibly proud. Of the juniors that did not make it, they were just about one test part away from passing, so we're hopeful that they too, next year, when they take their test, they too will get a seal for biliteracy on their diploma. So we're incredibly proud of those students as well.
That's great.
Excellent. Okay, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which I believe is our correspondence. We have our technology and work order reports. They can be received and filed. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular and executive session of February 5th.
So moved.
By Mrs. Bloom, do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Callahan, any remarks on the minutes? Hearing none, roll call to approve the minutes.
Mr. Valco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mrs. Kenny?
Yes.
Ms. Rubio?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
I believe I need to abstain on the February 5th minutes.
And Mr. Syak?
Yes. Dr. Labby, your superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Syak. I'd like to begin with item number 13 on Vision 2030 Finance and Infrastructure. Since we had our presentation today by the auditors, it would not make sense to ask our Board of Education members to approve something that they do not physically have in their hands. So we're asking you to withdraw number 13, which is the voting on the comprehensive annual financial report and auditor's management report. We'll put that on the agenda for March 5th. Moving ahead, number 17, as was mentioned in Jimmy's presentation, we're asking you to approve a resolution for professional services from our architect, Spiesel Architectural Group, for $39,700 for the professional services that we'll need to develop plans for the permanent partition that we've been looking to do at the Truman School. It's the last of the partitions that we need to put in, and that is in room C7. Also, we're asking for their professional services to draw plans for us for the locker room upgrades at the middle school, which is something we've been planning to do for several years now, and we're so happy that we're getting underway with those projects. Similarly, on pages 18 and 19, numbers 18 and 19, which also can be found in the addendum, we're asking you to withdraw from capital reserve $15,900 for professional services for that permanent partition, as well as for the maintenance at the Truman School, and from maintenance reserve, $23,800 for professional services for the locker room upgrades at the middle school. That too can be found in the addendum. Number 20, we're asking you to award the bid for the security vestibule upgrades to Farrow's Enterprise. They were the lowest bidder. They came in at the number there, which is $697,000, and that the bids were opened on February 12th. You can find all of that on the addendum. Similarly, on number 21, we're asking you to withdraw from capital reserve $337,000 for those security vestibule upgrades at the high school, middle school, and the upper elementary school. That too can be found in the addendum. And finally, we're happy to report too that we're moving forward with regard to the purchasing of our surveillance cameras and the software system that we'll be using for them. So we're asking you to approve a purchase agreement with Hanwha Network Video Management System, as well as corresponding licenses that go with that purchase professional agreement, to install services and training for the new era technology. And we did that through data, through an Ed Data Award. That can be found in the addendum as well. Any questions or comments on Vision 2030 Finance and Infrastructure?
Ms. Hill, on the bills list, I need to abstain on 3 checks, the Arts and Education Center, among board of that nonprofit, CME Associates, my brother works for the firm, and Premier Printing.
No problem.
One clerical thing, page 5, we have a number 14, and on page 3, we also have not 3, we have a number 14. So I think the second 14 should be number 15.
Oh, yes, it should.
Any other questions on finance?
Just a question. For 20 and 21, what's the distinction between the two amounts?
So we had, in the additional state aid, we had budgeted $360,000 for the security vestibules. The remaining, we need to take from capital reserve to fund the entire project.
Okay, so
So it's the 360 plus the 337 gives you the 697.
697.
okay.
Okay, next up.
Moving along to Vision 2030 Student Achievement, we just have our normal approval of co-curricular activities and trips. Any questions on that? Those all can be found on page 7. Moving along to governance, number 1 on page 9, we're asking to approve the settlement agreement. Actually, it's not number 1, I believe. Number 2, correct. Sorry about that. I'll change that on my slides later. We're asking to approve a settlement agreement between the SEA and the Board of Education on grievance 2015-53, cafeteria workers longevity. You can find that on page 9.
I believe I have to abstain on that one.
I abstain as well, Aaron.
Me too, and me. Okay.
Any other abstentions?
Four musketeers.
Unless there are any other questions on governance or comments, I'll move on to Vision 2030 personnel. And of course, as is the case always this time of year, we have another bittersweet moment in which we have to say goodbye to a beloved and highly accomplished staff member, but we do so wishing that person the very best and knowing that that person is going to be extremely happy in their retirement. So that being said, we would like to congratulate Mrs. Teresa Waters, a second grade teacher at the Arliss School, who is retiring after 25 years in education. Terry, as most people know her, started as a paraprofessional in the Project Before preschool program back in 1992 at the Sayreville School. She was hired by Dr. Aguiles as a teacher in 2002 at the Arliss School. During her first year, Terry worried that she'd never be good enough to be a real teacher. Her fears were unfounded, as anyone who has had the pleasure, and I certainly have, and the privilege I might add, to work with her can attest to this. Ms. Waters was nominated as Teacher of the Year back in 2005, a very well-deserved honor. She worked closely with 3 principals during her tenure at the Arliss School in order to continuously improve her skill set and eventually to be giving back and helping novice teachers the way she herself was helped back in 1992. Dr. Aguiles, Mr. Byrne, and now Mr. Preston have all have fond memories of Ms. Waters and all speak incredibly highly of her dedication to the profession and our school district. Terry Waters is a staple in the Sayreville community, and her passion for teaching, as well, and most importantly, her bright smile, will be very, very missed. On behalf of the staff and the students in the Sayreville Public Schools, we wish Ms. Waters nothing but the very best in the retirement phase of her life, and we can't thank her enough for the amazing service that she has provided to our students and this school district. And on a personal note, Ms. Waters is someone that I've had the opportunity to get to know quite well since I've been here as superintendent, and I have to tell you that she is the consummate professional, and her dedication day in and day out, as well as her proficiency and competency, impress me every time I see her. But moreover, her love and adoration for the students that she serves so impeccably inspires me. She will be greatly missed.
You're telling me she's a bomber.
Amen, Mr. Sayak. Amen. Moving along, I bring your attention to number 4, the appointment of a new non-certificated staff member. You can find that on pages 10 and 11. and that happens to be our new school safety and security specialist. We're very proud to bring that individual aboard. Also, number 9, we're asking you to approve teachers to write curriculum for the implementation in school year 2019-20. You can find that on pages 12 and 13. Number 10, which you can find in the addendum, we're asking you to approve the transfer of an evening custodian to now a district groundskeeper position for the 2018-19 school year. Number 11, which can also be found on the addendum, we're asking you to approve Tier 3 tutors for the RTI program at the Sayreville War Memorial High School during the 2018-19 school year. Similarly, we're asking you to approve teachers for the Reach for the Stars Academy. And Dr. Shadyac can explain that more to you if you need clarification on that. On an as-needed basis, depending on student enrollment, and you can find that in the addendum too. And then finally, on the addendum, we're asking you to approve a teacher on a paid administrative leave. Any questions, comments on Vision 2030 personnel?
Yes, we have an extensive list of curriculum, and this is all going to be implemented in September. Are these rewrites or are these new courses?
Dr.
Because you
Shea?
know I always give you a hard time with this.
They will be implemented in September, yes. We're going to begin the process the first week in March. Some of these are brand-new courses, others are rewrites. For example, Advanced Placement Computer Science is a new course. Statistics is a new course, and Pre-Algebra Grade 7, and Integrated Science. Those are all new courses. The others are revisions, and they're fairly major revisions, but what we've actually, we're going to work, the teachers will work for one day in March with their supervisor to get started on writing the curriculum, to kind of kickstart it.
Okay.
Based on feedback we've gotten from teachers, and then.
And they have models for the new courses, to guide them.
Absolutely, and they will be working in the wonderful Teacher Resource Center with their supervisors in a small group to really get things started. And our due date is that they have to have everything. We have, different benchmarks along the way, where like the first unit will be due by the end of April.
Okay.
So, and then those will be shared with the teachers as we're
Right, so
going
we're not
along.
waiting till June. We're going to try and do it piece by piece and get it all done so they can,
Right,
review
the
it.
whole thing, the entire curriculum is due in July to the supervisors, but it's going to be a work in progress, and it's going to be shared with the teachers along the way.
Right, so the teachers that are going to be teaching this will be taking part in writing the curriculum for the most part, or?
Well, it all depends. I mean, if,
They don't want to, they don't have
right, I mean, we,
Okay.
we want them to be involved, but
Yeah.
the ones who are actually writing it will be shared with the other teachers who are teaching that course, even if
Okay.
they're not writing it, but there will be dialogue. We want as much input
Yeah, please,
as possible.
because you know how I
Yes.
feel about that.
Yes.
And there's no new supplies or anything that we're going to need that hasn't been budgeted for any of these new rewrites?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other question? Oh, yes, Mrs. Kenny.
The pre-algebra grade 7 you said is a new course. If all the students are taking algebra in 8th grade, what is the math in 7th grade now?
It's seventh grade math, it's not all, not specific to pre-algebra. Okay, so we are rewriting that so that it's more specific. Right.
Because the 8th graders are all taking algebra.
The vast majority are taking algebra in 8th grade, not quite everyone, but the majority are. So we recognize that there's some gaps there, so we want to address that.
Other questions?
Number 4 is school safety specialists. They're going to be armed or not armed?
Yes,
Yes,
you're going to be armed.
they're armed.
And yes, we did go ahead and get additional monies to cover ourselves with liability insurance. That's already been taken care of.
And it says prorated 50,000. Is it 50,000 for the year and they're prorating for the 4 months, or is it 50,000
Right,
for 4
if
months?
it's a $50,000 annual
That's
salary,
annual
prorated.
salary, okay. I want to make sure it's. Do we
I
have-
too am going to be armed.
Do we have a
With a
lot?
sense of humor.
How many applicants do we have for that job?
Excuse me?
How many applicants do we have?
Dr. Aguiles, applicants for the school safety specialist, or
We had
Four.
4, one that dropped
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll open it up to public on it. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
can I go
didn't see your
back?
hand. I apologize.
Can I go back to Building and Grounds on page 4?
Oh, I don't think we can do that. That's against Robert's rules.
Well, you didn't specifically say Building and Grounds, so I was lost. On B, where it says that they're going to be practicing February through June, do they come in and practice when our schools are closed or no? I mean, do we have,
Which one?
it's cheerleading, Sayreville Recreation, do they come in when our buildings are closed?
It depends on if we have custodians working at the time.
Okay, yeah, but we
and-
wouldn't open up the school just for that.
Well, I mean, we might if they're willing to pay for the overtime for the
Well, yeah, 'cause-
custodians. Many times, people like say, the rec is not willing to do that.
Right, that's what
So, yeah, we will go ahead and lease the facilities to patrons on days in which we don't have school, but they will be charged for custodial fees.
That's what I thought. And one more thing, Clutch Sports, what is Clutch Sports?
Which-
Number
which-
J on page 4?
That's an LLC of one of our coaches.
Yeah, that's our basketball camp, basketball.
Oh, it's ours.
It's our
Okay.
coach, yeah,
I
it's
thought
an
it was an
LLC to
outside.
limit the liability.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll open it up to public for any item that's on the agenda. If you wish to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Okay, hearing none, we'll close public, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's report.
So moved.
By Mr. Walsh, do I have a second?
Second.
By Mrs. Bloom. Any comments on the superintendent's report?
Lovely report.
Lovely report.
Lovely report.
Thank you.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Balka?
Yes, with item noted.
Mrs. Backo?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes, except where noted.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes, except where items noted.
Mrs. Kenny?
Yes, except for items noted.
Ms. Rubio?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
And Mr. Syak?
And yes, with the abstention noted. Any committee reports?
I have superintendents.
Advisory Council. Okay.
The superintendent's parent advisory council meeting was held on February 13th. Dr. Shediak moderated the meeting. We had under old business, because the previous meeting we had discussed some cafeteria concerns. We had Ms. Brown and Ms. Menino of Food Services. They discussed primarily the line and crowd control at the SUES lunches. Suggestions were discussed with the members, and the cafeteria staff will try a soft rollout of some of these changes. Under safety and security, we had mentioned about hopefully having a security specialist, which tonight we did approve. We went over a discussion of the budget request for expanding time for the security monitors in the building. And a good deal of time was spent on discussing badges and lanyards for school safety. Adults in the schools will have color-specific lanyards according to their roles, so staff will have one color, substitutes another color, PTOs and volunteers another color, and visitors another color, so that our security can easily tell who's who coming in. I know you love the colors, yes.
What color do you give the superintendent and high school principal?
Teachers
Black and
already
blue.
have. He's Obama, blue, red.
I told you, I'm armed with a sense of humor.
There you go.
Under curriculum and instruction, we talked about the Math and Vision program and the revised curriculum that will accompany this for the rollout in the fall. On-course Connect was also discussed, and some of the problems that some of the parents and teachers were experiencing with it. We also talked about how standard-based report cards are really not going to be complementary with our current progress reports and on course.
So that will be a problem that we will have to go through. Under consideration, using Fontes and Pinnell in the preschool. We mentioned some of the new courses, the integrated ninth grade science course. At the high school level, statistics and advanced placement, computer science, and middle school pre-algebra, basic skills. Budget requests were also discussed by Dr. Shediak, and she finished up in talking about some of the grants that we are applying for. Our next meeting is March 13th at 7 p.m.
Okay. Could someone just expand on the progress reports, report cards, standard-based assessment, on-course not being compatible? What?
Sure. Okay.
Because I know in the back, I know we implemented
Right.
on-course to support standards-based, assessments, so I'm just trying to figure out what the gap is and how we close it.
Okay. We, last year, some of the parents wanted access to real-time grading, like through the parent portal. And that was not possible through Power School for standards-based grading.
Correct.
And we were told that it should work through on-course. Technically, it works, but it's a very, very time-consuming process for the teachers. And we've quite honestly discovered that not a whole lot of parents are going online and viewing it. So at this point, until we can find a better way to get it out there for the parents to see the grading in live, basically, through the parent portal, we have decided to suspend that. And instead, we will be sending home progress reports, as we did the past 2 years, to the students who are struggling. Okay, so at progress report time, those students will receive progress reports. Okay? They will most likely be paper progress reports, as we did the past 2 years. So we've taken a little bit of a step back here to take a look at,
Well, and part of that agreement was that if teachers were not going to do the real-time grading in on-course, which again, as Dr. Shediak said, many teachers will tell you it's very labor-intensive, then they had to agree to send the paperwork home. So correct the papers, make sure the papers get home to the parents, so that parents know on a daily basis how well their children are doing. So they had the choice to either continue to do it in on-course, or to correct the papers and send them home, or actually to do both. So we gave them a number of different options.
So did we not know that did we not see this in advance? Did the company mislead us?
No,
Did we know what it was and it just all of a sudden turned out to be a lot more work than we thought?
I think that's closer to it. We knew what the process was, and the process is exactly as it was defined for us, but turned over to the teaching staff in combination with their teaching duties and everything else they do. It was taking an immense amount of time for them. The process works technologically, but I don't believe that there was any better system that we vetted for doing this. It is a massively time-intensive task to put that amount of data into an online portal. So I don't think that using a standards-based grade through a technological system, I don't know that there's a better option for that. It's just the nature of standards-based grading and recording that at an assignment level into a gradebook. Is every assignment can have X number of standards, and every time you have a standard, you have to input that in. So
Gotcha.
going from a traditional grade where, one test, one grade, now you might have one test, 20 grades.
One test, 20 different standards,
Right.
30 different
Right.
kids for one class.
Right, and the report cards will still be issued through on-course, and they will be available electronically. It's just that the individual assignments will no longer, in most cases, be available to the parents that way, but they will be sent home to the parents, which is what we had done the first 2 years. And quite honestly, looking at it electronically, we were not seeing a lot of parents that were doing it, that were accessing it. And quite honestly, I mean, Mrs. Rubio and Mr. Esposito can attest, the parent reaction, we talked to the parents about it at the SPAC committee, and they said, I don't go on and look anyway. They freely said that, so.
And I think, especially when your children are younger, and a lot of the parents were talking from younger grades, you like that folder or that weekly set of papers coming home where the praise comes along with it. And for those who who see something as being a weakness that they want to work on at home, I think it's a more immediate and hands-on communication of how the child is doing.
Okay. And I would agree with that piece. I think that, again, the personal touch is always significant.
And they get something to hang on the refrigerator. Parents want something to hang on the refrigerator.
That's true.
Not me.
All right, other questions on the SPAC report? All right, any other committees that met? Delegate to New Jersey School Boards, I just want to report our County Student Recognition Dinner is March 26th at Old Bridge High School, so please mark that on your calendar. Also, the Jostens event that is going to focus not only on bringing our kids together with about, I think the last registration number I heard was around 400 students from across the state here at Sayreville War Memorial High School. There will also be a school board member program here as well on culture and climate, led by NJSBA, but the two programs will actually integrate together for an hour and a half so that some of the people that Jostens are bringing in can also speak to the school board members and the educators and students together all in one shot.
During the day or at night?
This is on a Saturday during the day.
Nice. When is it, March what?
It's April 6th. Saturday, April 6th. There'll be information coming from New Jersey school boards to register. Okay. The only other item I wanted to bring up, we spoke about this at the last meeting, and I just wanted to kind of circle back around on it to make sure that the board's thinking is kind of where I am. We spoke about the 18 to 21 program for our special education students. And the way, I've thought more about this since that presentation, because I really see it as an opportunity. And I see this going one of two ways. If it is purely an educational proposal, where, like anything else that we do, it's got an educational benefit and it costs money to do, then I think it's probably a more in-depth discussion from the board's perspective, because it's got to compete with all of the other programs that we have, and we have to weigh the benefits of that program against all the other educational endeavors that we have. But if it's also an educational program that will either pay for itself in savings, or it's an educational program that, by partnering with outside school districts, will allow us to bring new revenue into the district to pay for it, then in my mind, I think we need to make it a priority and see if we can find a way to design it and fund it, whether that be the loan proposal that I suggested, or even if we can't do a loan. If you think about it, we've got roughly a $90 million budget. If we keep 2% in surplus, that's $1.8 million. If this is something that's going to pay for itself and generate revenue, do we take a loan from ourselves of some of that surplus? Let's say it's $750,000, $800,000. Do this, but understand over the next 3 to 4 years that the profit that comes from this program is going to replenish our surplus, and then from there, the profit will go to invest in our other programs. So I just kind of wanted to talk to the board and see if this is an opportunity for us to either have cost avoidance or an opportunity to actually generate revenue. Is the board interested in exploring this further? And if we are, we can direct the administration to move forward with this and start bringing us back information. And again, it's not a firm commitment. I just want to know, is the board interested in doing this?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
100%.
All right.
Do we want to form some sort of subcommittee, though, along with the administration, or let them go first to bring it back to us? Do we want to?
I think we let them go first and come back and then figure out what's the best way to do it. Do we do a committee specifically dedicated to this, kind of like we have Blue Ribbon? Do we put it under Blue Ribbon? Do we put it under Finance? But I think we need to see kind of what they come back with first.
All right. What's the time frame?
We should move on this, really.
Dr. Labby, how quick can you get Mr. Nasser in motion? I'm talking to you like he's not standing in the audience.
Exactly, he's probably in motion
He
right
just
now.
left to get started.
He's heading out the door.
What do you think would be the time frame to start to come back? And again, I notice you're not going to have a final proposal next week, but to start having board discussion.
The summer.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Nasser is up to his ears in work right now with regard to, we're in the middle of IEP season.
Okay.
And so forth. I mean, after we get through the budget season, it might relax a little bit for him, but then we go into annual performance reviews and so forth. So, I would think in the summer, he and I will both have the time to sit down and begin to brainstorm. That is, of course, after Camp Excel.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know, Mr. Nasser, do you disagree with that, or?
We're talking full-blown proposals if we wait the 4, 5, 6 months for full-blown, whereas, you give us options on either way.
You want charts and things like that? Full blown?
PowerPoint, little.
Well, and look,
Information.
I think we,
Information.
Videos.
Don't let
Right, look,
anyone
Drag our feet
presentation.
on this.
I think we need to move with what I'll
I'd
call-
also like to stop being, I'd like to go back to just having one job before we do that too. So, by that time, I'll have one job.
Well, I'm trying to build up your
Hopefully.
next principalship here. So, if we get the school built, you'll have another principalship to move right into.
Yeah, we'll make it as full blown out as we can, Mr. Esposito.
Thank you, sir.
Look, I think it's important that we move on this with what I'll call all deliberate speed, with the emphasis on deliberate, because if we mess this up, and it is a proposal that we think is going to pay for itself, if we don't do it right, it's going to end up sacrificing either our free balance or causing us heartache with a loan. So we want to make sure that we take the time to do it right.
Did you hear that, Mr. Nasser? There's no pressure on you and I.
It's an able
Hey,
hand.
by the way, it's all on you. It's not on me.
Never hand me a big idea. You never know what I'm going to do with it.
I'm telling you.
Those guys can do it.
All right, very good. Any other comments or discussion?
One more thing. I don't know if anybody else got it, but today I got the invitation from the Middlesex County Education Association for their annual Black Tie Gala. And they are this year donating however they donate the proceeds, whether it's all of the proceeds or.
It's all of the proceeds.
All of the proceeds, thank you, to Sayreville BOE. So what I'll do is I'll scan the invitation and I'll send it out to all staff. Is that okay with you, Dr. Labby, if I do that? This
Actually,
way-
I think it's already been
Is it
forwarded
already
to
out there?
staff.
Okay.
Mr. Bloom,
I
I think
think he
forwarded it
did,
out.
yes, I think he did.
But
I-
Lucy, if you want to send something out too, I'll approve it.
Yeah, if anybody was interested in doing that, because since the money is coming back to BIC, I thought it was a good idea. And it's always fun to get dressed up for black tie,
I have the invitation.
although I don't wear a black tie.
All right, Mrs. Becker?
Yes, I just had a question about the calendar. I know we don't have it tonight, but the email that we received about the other holidays, and I know the committee, you said that the last time you researched the other holidays, and this was the best way to do it, because there was a list of other holidays in the email we got.
Which email did you get?
There was an email from, it actually wasn't it wasn't a person, it was like a community group or something.
The Sayreville United
Oh, okay.
Muslims, was it?
Right, and,
I wasn't aware that went out to the full board. I know that I did
yes,
receive
yeah, I
Oh,
saw
yeah, that
your-
went out to the full
yeah,
board.
representing themselves as the
Syed Squala.
other half of the Islamic community.
Right, and
that
there was a
was not
list
in
of other
favor.
holidays in that email, so I didn't know if you had researched all the holidays.
No, well, I think that basically that email was saying that they do not agree that we should be taking a holiday for Eid or any of the Islamic holidays. That's what they were saying. They disagree with what we were doing with regard to taking those holidays.
Right, but I thought on the other side, it said if we do this holiday, there were other holidays
No,
to
they
consider.
were saying if you do these holidays, then you should be doing all these other holidays. And I
Right.
think that they used the listing from the Department of Education and state-approved holidays, which we can't possibly do.
Right, so I guess my question is, on that list of holidays, did we look at those? Were any of them viable holidays we should give consideration to?
I think we've given consideration to the holidays that we should be giving
We did,
consideration
okay.
to. I found that email to be interesting, but I do know that other districts, are following suit or have already done so. I mentioned them before, Edison, Piscataway, Bridgewater, East Brunswick, they too are providing some of the same holidays that we are.
I just wanted to clarify that the
Yeah.
calendar we had was still.
But, and I do appreciate, the people that did send us that email. I mean, I think it's important for us to get, the opinions and the feedback from all of our parents in our community. So it was, quite beneficial, and I was very thankful to receive their feedback. But it hasn't deterred me in terms of the direction that we're going, unless it's deterred the board. I do believe that, we live in a very diverse community, and I think that all of our students deserve the opportunity to, worship and celebrate on very specific days without having to worry about getting assignments done or what are they missing in school.
And we'll have that calendar for 2021 at our next
Yeah,
meeting?
the 1920 calendar, as we said at our last meeting, it didn't change. But the 2021 calendar, when we do present it to you, it will have those days on it.
Okay.
And I think we said we were going to do that, I believe, in March. I don't want to do that, unless you want me to do that, on the March 5th agenda because of the fact that it's let the children lead.
Yeah, let's schedule for the 19th.
And that being said, do we have the ability to wait for the comprehensive
Audit.
audit?
Can we
Can
approve the
wait
CAFR on the
until
19th as well?
The March 19th Board of Education meeting rather than leave that for the March 5th?
I believe we can, but I want to verify the dates that we have to approve by. But I
If we can, that would be better, in case anyone has any questions.
Right, discussion can be kind of hard when it comes to let the children lead. So we'll try to leave as many juicy motions off of it as possible. So we'll save that calendar as well as the CAFR and auditor's report for the 19th, provided that we're within the 30-day limit.
Right, and I also, just to clarify too, we had our finance meeting tonight, so I'm going to send the summary out with.
Mr.
everything that
Nestor
the
is
auditors
back. He's
brought
got
up.
the proposal done. We're all set to go.
So I'll make sure that I include a summary of everything that the auditors discussed with the finance committee, so that if there are questions, if anybody wants to address them ahead of time, we'll have time to do so.
Perfect.
So if we have questions, send them to you and you'll send them to the auditor, or we're going to discuss it at the next meeting? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear half of what you
I
said.
know, I apologize.
I think she's got a cold.
I lose my voice at every meeting.
So as soon as we get the auditor's report, we'll get that out.
So we have the auditors dropped off the reports tonight, so I actually have copies if
Oh,
anybody
okay.
wants to pick them up. So we have that, and I'll also send out a summary of everything that they discussed with the finance committee tonight.
Along with the electronic version
Yes.
of the audit. That
Well,
way
and I
you
don't
have,
have the electronic version yet, so I'm still waiting for that, but as soon as I have that, I will share it.
this way you'll have about a month to read over it and to email Erin with questions so that she can go ahead and forward those to our auditors and so forth. So everybody should be very well informed and educated by the time we ask you to approve it on the 19th.
Any other questions, comments? All right, I'll open it up to public for any item concerning the district. If you wish to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Hearing none, I'll close public, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Mrs. Bloom, do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Walsh, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.